you and I haven't talked yet this year on the show, have we? This is our first get together. Welcome to 2026.
It's been quite the year so far. Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm feeling very snarky because I think that we have seen a transition in the Trump administration in terms of their ICE deployment, which has been concerning the entire time, but has really escalated in the last couple of days. Certainly the shooting, the murder of, an American mother of 3 in Minnesota. But then, and even after that, they have started doing something I think people need to know about and need to call their representatives about. And I don't say that lightly. This is a big deal. And no matter who your representative is, if they're a Republican and you think they don't listen to you, it doesn't matter. People need to be loud and demand to be heard. They are doing these neighborhood knocks on, going door to door, and they are going after activists, American citizens now. Now, they don't have the legal authority for that, and this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution. And so people really, I don't think that enough people understand what's happening in Minnesota and why they're being targeted so much. They are being targeted because they have not gone for a Republican. I think it's 50 years now. And they're a very blue state. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Tim Walz being the governor who, was the VP candidate running against the person that's in office right now. And so he's very petty and very small man and very vindictive, Donald Trump. And so he's going after Minnesota because of that. So that's what's happening there. And people need to be loud about it. And this past weekend, there were these great protests all over the country, which is, it's pretty incredible to see that people are willing after, ICE is out here telling American citizens, you need to be careful. Otherwise, you just saw what happened. So you need to be careful. And in other words, telling people not to even protest them peacefully or they will be shot.
Sarah, one of the things that first of all, I appreciate you saying all that you just said and reminding folks of where we are and what's happening, and then we'll get into the why. But this is the thing. Was it Chrissy Nome or was it Caroline Levitt? I don't remember which one it was that said that they were, or maybe it was J.D. Vance, but someone in the administration made the comment about going to go door to door. Okay.
Yeah, and they are doing that now. Yes.
I should be going door to door. So let's everybody press pause for a second and understand. It is awful that one of our fellow Americans was gunned down, and I will say it loud, unapologetically, gunned down and murdered by an ICE agent. That's what happened. Okay, let's not get caught up in where the wheels were turned and what she did, all that sort of stuff. She was gunned down by an ICE agent. Now, the fact that that's happened and we've lost an American citizen and her humanity and dignity were stolen from her and alone her life, to have a federal official say that they're going to go door to door tramples all over the Fourth Amendment, because to do that with probable cause, or you have to have a warrant to do that, and the probable cause piece precedes the warrant to have strong evidence to then have the warrant issued to then be able to go in on somebody's door to search for what. Right. Are they searching for illegal? There's what they want to deem as illegals and knocking on door to door to door looking for people. No, that's not what's happening. It's what Sarah said. They're trying to now. This is why I beg folks, please don't get caught up in the stupid stuff. We can't fix certain things right now. We have to protect where we are. Here's my point. Doge, information gathering, Palantir, Peter Thiel, These guys want information on people so that they can do what? Go knock on doors for reasons that have nothing to do with immigration enforcement. Please, folks, understand when I'm telling you this. That is the reason why. And Sarah made the point. They're not knocking on doors or landing in Arkansas. They're going to blue states. Please, folks, wake the hell up in this space. And in that,
targeting houses based on race and whether the people are protesting and whether they're activists, that is unconstitutional. It's a violation of the law. And I want people to understand that right now, in February, the funding for DHS is going to expire and it needs to be renewed. So this is why they have to call their representatives and tell them, because some Democrats are saying we aren't going to fund this until you reform the way ICE is conducting itself, and it must be lawful. It is not lawful right now. And people need to demand that it not be funded with our tax money until it is behaving lawfully.
Yeah, and that's why so many of us that are frustrated about this have been begging to see past just the window dressing. There's so much more going on here and so much more to the conversation. They are breaching not just the First Amendment in terms of freedom of speech, but also the Fourth Amendment when it comes to search and seizure. And
you know what? I'm just going to say this. I have not said this. I do not use these words lightly. I am very restrained in the words that I use because I always tell myself, you wait until it's actually here. So I have not called these people Nazis. Okay, I have not called them the Gestapo. At this moment, now, going door to door, yes, this moment has arrived. It is a huge deal, and people need to understand that. This is not just another thing they're doing. This is an infringement of liberty and freedom to the point where if this is not stopped, then where does it end? Ask yourself that. Because you didn't vote properly, because you didn't vote for them, they're going to come to your house. Because I watched a video of ICE aiming guns at a home where the people inside have a baby.
Yep.
The woman's holding the baby because their DoorDash driver ran into their house for refuge from ICE.
Yeah.
So where does it end? You might have nothing to do with any of this
at all,
and they come to your house, aiming guns at your house. All of these masked men. That is not. None of this is normal. That's not law enforcement. And I have seen a lot of people, mostly conservatives, but I've seen some other people fall for that line. Oh, you can't, you deserve to get shot when you're fleeing. Oh, this is law enforcement. If you don't stop. No. Mm-mm. No. And this is not partisan. None of that is law enforcement. And that is why you do not see the police behaving that way.
Right.
Now, we know the police aren't always.
They've got their own set of issues, but.
They have their own. That is a separate issue, but that's a separate conversation. But even those people with whom we have a lot of issues because the justice is not, they don't treat people equally. Even the police do not behave this way. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
The police have to identify themselves. They can't wear masks. Those things should apply to these people, and they need to. They have to uphold the Constitution. They don't get to violate the Constitution. If they are allowed to do that,
they're
then
held to
the law.
They are then held as imperfect as the legal system or the justice system is. They're held to some sort of review at the minimum in this space. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're speaking with our good friend Sarah Jones from the Daily Politicus. Sarah, listen, I got to come back and ask you this question. When we think about this whole door-to-door thing, what's crossed my mind, and I wonder if this has crossed your mind. So what if they knock on the wrong door? What I mean by the wrong door is somebody that's just not willing to have their door knocked on by some strange guys zooted and booted on their front porch. What's going to happen then? They knock on a person's door that doesn't like the fact. Then we're going to have an ICE. Then the other side of this conversation is an ICE agent's going to get something happen to them. I'm not going to use those words,
right.
Because they knocked on a door of, put it this way, an old white guy that says, "No, I'm not tolerating this."
Yeah.
That's how literal.
Yeah, that is going to happen.
Do you know what I mean?
They're the people they are the people who pushed this, stand your ground, the castle doctrine, and all of those laws. So not that those don't apply in every state, but the states where they do apply, someone is going to answer their door armed. That is going to happen. I suspect that's what they want, because they'll try to martyr that person. But the bottom line is,
ICE doesn't have.
You come.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, you don't. What happens is they're failing in court, right? So all of this stuff is happening in the streets, and they lie about it. The administration gets up here and actually lies about they defamed this woman, they maligned her, and they lie about what's happening. Now, over and over again, they get busted in court for lying.
Yeah.
And so their take on things, when they say somebody hurt their officer, I have yet to see an instance where that was actually true. It is, now there may be skirmishes and there are,
how many officers
happening.
How many citizens have the officers hurt versus how many officers have been hurt?
It is much more that where they are getting, because of course who they recruited and the way they've incentivized these people to be violent. The point of their operations is to intimidate people. It is to scare and silence people into being quiet and going along with what they're doing, which is why it's so heartening to see people respond by saying, heck no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do the opposite. So we're in the street, we're peacefully protesting. But to your point, yes, somebody is going to answer the door. Some 2A enthusiast is going to answer the door using their own rhetoric that they have sold this country through a special interest and the gun lobby for decades now, which has put this country into a state of constant terror.
PTSD. One of my good
PTSD. Yeah.
One of my good friends and a person that's been with us on WCPT for a while, Tressa McDonald, has said years ago. She was speaking specifically to African Americans. We live in a permanent state of PTSD in this country. Well, what's happening now is other communities are starting to recognize that we are at a tipping point of PTSD for this country at large.
Well, let's not
go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, let's not forget that right in this area of Minnesota, where this is all happening in 2020, it was George Floyd, right?
Four blocks away, from what I understand, or something like that. 4 minutes away, whatever.
Yes. And here we are now, and it's a white woman. 3 women a day in this country are murdered by an intimate partner, and nobody talks about that. There is PTSD for communities, and I think 2020 and the awareness finally of a lot of Americans of the disparity in the justice system, the disparity in policing, that was very good to see people finally become somewhat aware. I don't understand really why people weren't aware of that before.
Privilege is a big part of it.
But I'm glad.
Privilege is a big part of
Yeah,
it. I mean, just
privilege. Yeah,
the comfort of saying that it's them over there. It's not going to come our way. And what I used to watch when there would be an event, a tragedy that would take place in a community. For example, I'll just use this as a very quick example. A suburban community would say, "This has never happened in our community before. This has never. We didn't know that person." That's privilege because they don't have to know about it. They don't have to be aware of it. They don't have to be cognizant of the fact that tragedies do happen. So I think that what George Floyd, what that showed real time, is that the police in that community were out of control, and what was happening in other parts of the country wasn't like a one-off. That it was happening in so many other parts of the country, and video cameras on these things called cell phones were making it real. You know, Will Smith said it the best. This isn't something new; it's just being recorded now. And I'm paraphrasing how he actually said that. But you know, Sarah, I want to come back to something that is important, and I recognize this, that you had posted about ICE, the stated goals for the ICE Out for Good protest. Since you were talking about the protest, I don't want to forget this. There's a couple of things that you had highlighted that the ICE Out for Good protesters are focusing on. One of them is honor and humanize the lives taken by ICE. The second, demand accountability and transparency for the killing of Renee Nicole Good. The third, expose the broader pattern of ICE violence and the detention centers. Call for ICE to leave our communities, build public pressure on elected officials and federal agencies, create space for grief, solidarity, and collective action, and strengthen local connections and neighborhood response systems. These are some of the things that the organization had put out, and you highlighted it in one of your articles entitled Anti-ICE Protests Rock America as the People Fight Back. Talk about that a little bit as we wrap up.
Well, I just want to touch on something that we were talking about right before this, and I just want to wrap it up with saying that racism and sexism are both tools that elites use to divide people, and we're now seeing that connection in Minnesota, right from George Floyd to Renee Good, because what happens to one group of marginalized people is going to happen to another. We're all in the same boat here. And that has to be something we take away from this. And in terms of these protests, I loved how they defined their mission, because the right is trying to say it's defund the police. But it's not defund the police. These people are not doing law enforcement. That's the problem. So what we need is law enforcement that upholds the law and honors the Constitution and respects freedom and dignity of every person on American soil. That is a right that we have. We have that right, and no one can take that away from us. We cannot give it away freely.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, they are certainly trying hard as hell to take it away, but it gets taken away if we allow it to happen at this point. The game plan was put in writing in Project 2025, and here we are fighting against that on a day-to-day basis, literally in the streets of America. And you know, my comment about where ICE is and where they're going, I don't see ICE in Republican cities and Republican states en masse. That, to your point at the beginning of our segment, they're in blue cities and blue states, and just look at the record. Look at the record of where ICE has been prior to their budget approval and since then. And it's clear they're going into blue cities. And I know some people want to talk about it as sanctuary cities and this, that, and the other. Why aren't they in Orlando? Why aren't they in some of the red cities and red states?
Let's talk about who this man is, okay? This is a man who, before he was elected in 2016, was caught on tape saying that he grabs women by the you-know-what.
Right.
And he moves on them whether they like it or not. That is what he is doing to all of these blue cities and states.
Yep.
The thinking is the same, because sexual violence is an act of aggression and hatred and contempt and control. It has nothing to do with lust. And that is the man. That is why it's a problem to have somebody like that in leadership. because this is how they behave. He has stocked ICE up with people that are just like him, that have that ethos. To harm others is something they get enjoyment out of. And that is the purpose of all of this. And he's using that harm to try to control people who do not go along with him, who will not give themselves to him, vote for him willingly.
And that don't submit.
It's all related.
Yep. That don't
rape,
submit.
You know?
Yeah. No. I hadn't seen it that way, but now that you've sort of put that in the conversation, you're absolutely right. It is part of that abusive nature that Donald Trump clearly, for those who don't like this too bad, he clearly has exhibited, and he said it on a tape. So don't believe me, believe the tape. Sarah.
And then a jury found him, liable.
Yeah.
Rape.
Yeah.
So,
34-time convicted felon is now got other felons that got people who were part of the destruction of our Capitol out harassing people, arresting people, and murdering people. That's what this is. That's where we are. You can hear the frustration and the snarkiness in both of our voices this morning. But if you guys take away anything from this conversation with Sarah, it is this: we do have to still fight. And I know that may seem like I'm oversimplifying it, but we still have to fight, because we're not going to lay down and let them do this. That's why the rallies and the protests have meaning. So find out what tool of pushing back you're going to pick up, and go ahead and pick it up and start to wield it. So that's kind of where we are. Sarah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. I know it's been a tough start to the new year, but this is the fight that we've got in front of us. So let's be about winning this fight.
Thanks for having me. And I just want to say, I've heard a lot of people say this is a hard start to the new year, but I just want to flip that on the other side for a minute and say but what you're seeing in Donald Trump right now is reaction and lashing out because he's losing control.
Yep.
So know that it's going to get worse before it gets better. But if everybody stands up and keeps using their voice, it will get better.
That's right.
And this is the year it's going to happen. So just know that and stay strong.
Stay strong and stay in the fight. Sarah Jones.